if you want to deal with the whole race card, this is what makes them stupid. The first two makes them ignorant. The third one is what makes them stupid. Why? They claim to be the original Jews because the original Jews, according to morons, were black. Now, all you need to do is read the Torah to know there could never be a possibility that the original Jews were black. Why? Where did the Jews start from? They're going to tell you all types of mumbo jumbles depending on who the yeller is. But the truth is, where did Am Yisrael start from? Avraham Avinu. So where do we learn about Avraham for the first time? Where? They're going to tell you, oh, we learn about him in Parashat Lech Lecha. No, it's not Lech Lecha, it's Lech Lecha, and it's not that. We learned the first time about Avraham at the end of Parashat Noach. Noach, ish tzaddik tamim bedorotav. Noach. That's the parasha. At the end of Parashat Noach, we learn about the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, actually one of the people that was part of the Tower of Babel, one of the wicked people, was Avraham's father, Terach. Okay? Now, this is where everything was. Babel had a place in it called Ur Kasdim. That's where Avraham was thrown into the fire by Nimrod. Where is Babel? That's Babylon. That's Iraq. Iraq, if you want to say it in English. It's, go find me one African American black guy in Iraq. Find one. You're not going to find. Now, I love black people. I have plenty of black students and black friends. But don't tell me that the color of your skin means that you're righteous or you're wicked, and even make it to seem that if I'm not the same color as you, therefore I'm not good. This is moronic. Even more so when your whole testament is literally something you can collapse in a matter of a few minutes because you don't even know your own history. You don't even know your own history. You're going to tell me they came from black people? Where did Avraham come from? He came from Iraq, eating madbucha, eating falafel, eating shawarma, not eating the food that you like. He's not eating hot wings. He's eating falafel. He's eating shawarma. This is where Avraham came from.
There is something interesting about people who claim to have the truth, but they deliver it like a threat. You see, oftentimes when your argument is strong enough, you don't need insults, you don't need threats to carry it, across the finish line. So when this rabbi in this video calls black people imposters of biblical Israelites, and even goes ahead to even insult them as stupid for just questioning and also claiming a part of history, biblical history, the real question isn't who is right. At this point, the question changes to why does it feel like this conversation is being shut down instead of it being opened up for people to ask questions, for people to claim and know the truth, And maybe, I'm saying just maybe, the reaction tells more than the argument itself. Yeah, so I came across this video of this rabbi, and I want us to watch this video keenly, not just what he's saying, but how he's also trying to say it. And I'll be back with some more good commentary at the end of this video. So see you then.
Sometimes people look like they know a lot, but in reality they don't know. They just know a few things, and they make enough of a stink about them that it makes it seem as if they know more than everybody else. Similar to those Reshaim, those Israelites, these idiots, Goyim, that they're not idiots because they're Goyim, because there are many smart Goyim, but they happen to be one of the idiots among the nations instead of the righteous among the nations. Now these idiots have been making a bigger stink lately. I had a few people send me messages about them and say, oh, this is concerning anti-Semitism. Kanye West is talking about the Israelites. Now, I know these morons from years ago. I remember when I lived in New York, you always had one of these Amaleks in the middle of the street wearing something that he bought from a costume store, and he's yelling and screaming the New Testament, but he's, pretending as if he's reading the Ten Commandments from Mount Sinai, and he's reading it in English because none of them know Hebrew. and yelling at everybody that they're the righteous, they're the original Jews, they're the ones, and the Jews of today are fakers, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, at that time that I saw them initially, I didn't know anything about Judaism, so there's not much to argue here. I just knew they're idiots because just the way they behave. Today, Baruch Hashem, after Baruch Hashem, I've had enough time to learn enough that they're morons. Why are they morons? Because their entire premise of everything in regards to being an Israelite and the original Hebrews and they're black and all this racism, all of that can be crushed in literally just a few sentences. There's no need for a debate. I will never have a debate with one of these people because, again, they're violent people, both verbally and otherwise. And even more so, they're simply mental midgets because they don't even know what they don't know. First and foremost, your religion of Christianity, and it is your religion because you're reading the New Testament. Anyone that reads and follows the New Testament is a Christian. There's no question about that. God did not give the New Testament to Am Yisrael at Mount Sinai. New Testament did not exist. Okay, so anyone that reads New Testament, you are a Christian. Rule number one. Number two, you are reading, let's say you say, no, let's say if I take aside and I don't read the Jesus part, the Matthew and the Luke and the Stephen and the Joes, whatever it is in there, all these idol worshippers, let's say I discount them, I'm reading from the Old Testament, like they pretend like they do. I'm reading from the Old Testament, the real Word of God. Okay, buddy, let's see you read. Read it to me. Read me the first verse. In the beginning, hold on a second. I said read it in the beginning. Well, no. Read it. In the beginning. I'm reading in the beginning. It's not in the beginning. Where does it say in the beginning? Well, it says right there. No, you're reading the New Testament in English. It says Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. It's in Hebrew. It's not in English. Your translation is a manipulation. Don't tell me that you that came 1,500 years after Am Yisrael received the Torah, you're going to come to my house, to my religion, to my Torah, and tell me what it says when you don't even know the language, for heaven's sake. So that's argument number two, the end. Now, of course, if you want to deal with the whole race card, this is what makes them stupid. The first two makes them ignorant. The third one is what makes them stupid. Why? They claim to be the original Jews because the original Jews, according to morons, were black. Now, all you need to do is read the Torah to know there could never be a possibility that the original Jews were black. Why? Where did the Jews start from? They're going to tell you all types of mumbo-jumbos depending on who the yeller is. But the truth is, where did Am Yisrael start from? Avraham Avinu. So where do we learn about Avraham for the first time? Where? They're going to tell you, we learn about him in Parashat Lech Lecha. No, it's not Lech Lecha, it's Lech Lecha, and it's not that. We learned the first time about Avraham at the end of Parashat Noach. Noach, ish tzadik tamim bedorotav. Noach. That's the parasha. At the end of Parashat Noach, we learn about the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, actually one of the people that was part of the Tower of Babel, one of the wicked people, was Avraham's father, Terach. Okay? Now, this is where everything was. Babel had a place in it called Ur Kasdim. That's where Avraham was thrown into the fire by Nimrod. Where is Babel? That's Babylon. That's Iraq, if you want to see it in English. It's, go find me one African-American black guy in Iraq. Find one. You're not going to find. Now, I love black people. I have plenty of black students and black friends. But don't tell me that the color of your skin means that you're righteous or you're wicked, and even make it to seem that if I'm not the same color as you, therefore I'm not good. This is moronic. Even more so when your whole testament is literally something you can collapse in a matter of a few minutes because you don't even know your own history. You don't even know your own history. You're going to tell me they came from black people? Where did Avraham come from? He came from Iraq, eating madbucha, eating falafel, eating shawarma, not eating the food that you like. He's not eating hot wings. He's eating falafel. He's eating shawarma. This is where Avraham came from. And after that, Avraham, where does it say this? It says it in the Tower of Babel, but even more it says it in the verses themselves, where it says, ויחי תרח 70 שנה ויולד את אברהם את נחור ואת הרן ואלה תולדות תרח תרח הוליד את אברהם את נחור ואת הרן והרן הוליד את לוט וימת הרן על פני תרח אביו בארץ מולדתו באור כסדים. English. When Terach, when Terach had lived 7 years, he begot Avram, Nachor, and Haran. Now these are the chronicles of Terach. Terach begot Avram, Nachor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died in the lifetime of Terach, his father, in his native land, in Ur Kasdim. Where's Ur Kasdim? Go look on Wikipedia. It's in Iraq. Saddam Hussein, former leader. That's where Iraq is. Now, if you want to know further, where they go after? ויקח תרח את אברהם בנו ואת לוט בן הרן בן בנו ואת שרי כלתו אשת אברהם בנו ויצאו איתם מאור כסדים ללכת ארצה כנען ויבואו עד חרן וישבו שם. Where's Haran? Terach took his son Avram and Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, that ends up being Sarah later on, the wife of Avram, his son. They departed with them from Ur Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. They arrived in Haran and they settled there. Where's Haran? Where is that? Ethiopia? Where is that? Jamaica? Where is that? Nigeria? Where is it? Turkey. Turkey. You know Turkey? Thanksgiving Turkey? There's a country called Turkey before there was Thanksgiving Turkey. That's where Haran is. Go find me a black person that lives in Turkey, that was born there, and is from the time of Avraham Avinu. So, you see, Rabotai, those idiots, and I emphasize, idiots, are people that are a danger to society. Why? Not because of their demeanor and their gigantic size and their weird clothes, but rather because when they speak in such a demeanor, with such oomph behind their voice and command of their beliefs, that it actually sounds like what they're saying is true. So people follow them into Gehenom. And guess what? They're also going to go to Gehenom. Who's not going to go to Gehenom? Someone that studies and doesn't make things up based on their preferences of their skin color and their shoe size and their hair preference and even what gel they put in their hair. You want to be righteous? Follow the way of God, of Israel, not the God of the Israelites and the God of the Christians and the Messianics and all these Baba Meisters that are out there. Follow the God of Israel. Who's the God of Israel? 5 books of Moses. Read it with commentary by Rashi. You'll understand a little bit more. After that, we can talk further because there's a whole lot more to the Torah than what you're seeing. But first thing you have to do, abandon those false beliefs and that wicked behavior that's abusing society and the public at large. And even more so, stop claiming to know more than the Jews who received the Torah at Mount Sinai and are observant to that Torah till this day. Stop pretending you know more than us when you don't even know our language, and neither do you even know our God. You know something you created, and you are acting simply like a fool that's going to end where foolish people are, like Ephron. So this, Rabotai, is something that is a cancer in society today because there are speakers that know how to speak. Sometimes they'll be in the middle of a street, sometimes they'll be in a church with 250,000 people. Sometimes they'll be in a stage at a TED Talk and they speak in a certain demeanor, certain amount of confidence, certain amount of information, certain amount of cockiness that is impressive upon the weak, the ignorant. And what ends up happening is that they take advantage of those little innocent sheep. Now, why are the innocent sheep allowed to be taken? Why does God allow it? Who told you to be a sheep? You could have been the shepherd if you learned Torah. Now, will you be able to learn the entire Torah? No. Why? Torah is wider than the ocean. But you could certainly learn a lot of Torah. And at the very least, not be a sheep.
All right, now let's slow this down because here we have two battles happening at the same time. The first one is about identity and history, and then the second one is about tone, control, and who gets to speak or yell, like we've had on that history. And let's start with the first one and the obvious one. If your argument is solid, once again, if you have a strong argument, you don't need to weaponize disrespect to prove it. You don't need to call people stupid. You don't need to mock them. You don't need ridicule, because the truth does not panic. The truth does not shout. It's self-explanatory. I say this, I try to simplify it and usually claim this. If you are a spider and someone tells you that you're not a spider, you're not going to get angry over that. The truth doesn't need to get angry. So when someone immediately jumps to insults and defensiveness, it doesn't speak of their confidence. Actually, I think it speaks of their defensiveness. It's like they're not protecting history, they're actually protecting and gatekeeping the ownership of narration. Who gets to speak on that history? And that's where things are getting deeper here. Because when Black people claim the Israelite identity, not Israeli, we mean the Israelites, the scriptural people, they're not just making a random statement, okay? They are drawing patterns, geography, and historical parallels. And let's break this down quickly, just a little bit, yeah? The Bible is set in regions that are geographically closer to Africa than Europe, actually. What we know today as the Middle East has been part of the northern African continent frontier. And ancient Egypt, Kush, the Nubian kingdom, these were powerful African civilizations, or civilizations of Black people on the continent of Africa, interacting directly with these biblical lands. And we're talking biblical facts here. We're talking about Moses being raised in Egypt. Where is Egypt? We're talking about Israelites fleeing into Africa at some point. We're talking about descriptions in the Bible that many argue, they point towards darker skinned populations and even a darker skinned Jesus, And then there is this prophetic argument, which is also strong, for many Black communities, especially in the diaspora, like the Black Americans, they see parallels between biblical prophecies about suffering, about displacement, and the enslavement of Israelites, very related to the situations that they too have gone through and that they are going through at the moment. Now, look, whether someone agrees with this interpretation or does not, that's a separate discussion. But the point is, it is an argument from Black people that is based on observation and connection. It's not just an imagination. It's someone that is drawing parallel, an argument out of saying this kind of description fits me. So if you want to challenge it, if this guy dares want to challenge this, you challenge it with evidence. You tell Black people why that's not the case. It's not insults, it's not ridicule, because once you switch it to now disrespect and defensiveness and confrontational, It's no longer debating. You're no longer proving a point. Actually, you're policing who gets to question history at this point. And this is what he's doing. And here is where it gets even more uncomfortable. History, as we know, and we can all agree, has been rewritten, severely rewritten, and severely whitewashed. That's not even controversial. Saying that is not controversial anymore. We can all agree that. Anybody knows that the history we consume today is thoroughly adulterated, from colonial narratives to erased black civilizations. We already know that power has shaped history in a certain way to favor some people. So when people start digging, questioning, and connecting the dots, that's not stupidity. That is curiosity. And curiosity is dangerous, but only to people who are afraid what curiosity will uncover. And now let's be clear. That doesn't automatically really mean, let me be fair, mean that every claim that is made by black people about being the Black Israelites is 100% correct, But it also doesn't mean that the whole entire, story needs to be dismissed with the kind of arrogance we are seeing in this video. Because real scholarship, of course, does not fear questions. It embraces questions and curiosity. It engages, So the bigger issue here isn't who are the real Israelites actually in this video from listening to this guy, It is, the question here is, why does one side feel comfortable asking questions while the other feels the need to shut those questions and dismiss the whole conversation, shut it down aggressively, Because when a conversation like this turns hostile instead of informative, it stops being about the truth and it starts to become more about control. That's what we are seeing here. And that's where people should really start to pay attention. Not just what is being said, but how it is being said. How is it being said? That's the question. Because sometimes I think the tone of the messenger exposes cracks in the message itself. Yeah. But well, that's just my take on it. Let me know what you think about this. Share me your thoughts and your opinions in the comment section below. And if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you're new, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. I'll really, really appreciate. So with that, see you in the next video.